Yes, good afternoon. It is the North London Derby day. Two fan bases completely divided on their managers, and we've got to talk about the fixture as well. Finally, we've actually pinned down Alex. We've been trying to do some content for about, I want to say, a couple of months now, where both our schedules have been so busy. Both his channels will be down below, the Different Knock and the Cannon podcast. But Alex, how's things, mate?
Mate, pleasure to be here. As you say, it's been a long time coming, so it's a pleasure, man.
I've gone on holiday, you've gone on holiday, but we finally managed to pin it down. Now, when I first tried to get you on the channel, Arsenal were in a very good position. In Bukayo Saka, who was fully fit and firing. Gabriel Jesus was in and around the squad. He was kind of tinkering with the first 11. And since then, I think it's fair to say right now, you're probably out of the League Cup, in my personal opinion. It's going to be very tough to go to St. James's. You lost to Man United on penalties, in which a game where how you didn't score is beyond me. And there's a bit of a divide right now. It seems like a lot of the fans have got their knives out for Arteta. People are saying 750 million spent or 700 million. You should be where Liverpool are now. Before we get into like the ins and outs of Arsenal versus Spurs, what is your kind of thoughts on where Arsenal are right now?
I think, firstly, I'll always say in terms of like the online fan opinion versus like the general fan base, I think there's always going to be a bit of a vocal minority. I would say maybe if you spend enough time on the internet, you probably overrate how many Arsenal fans actually want Arteta out. I will say there's a lot of Arsenal fans who are frustrated. I think that's fair to say on and offline. I think the frustration really is how we're losing games, because it's the same way every single time. It's all the final third territory. It's all the box dominance. It's all the final third touches, zone 14 touches, field tilt, all those metrics that people go on about, right? And we just don't put it in the back of the net. And that is the frustration. I think sometimes it's this meme that I always reference. It's like two ends of an IQ spectrum, and it's like just sign better players, and then it's, in the middle it's like, well, if you change the usage of the half spaces and then just sign better players at the other end of the spectrum. And that is kind of where I think a lot of Arsenal fans are. Is we just need a forward, and we don't need to overthink it massively. But yeah, I think the the draws and losses against Everton, Fulham, Newcastle, United, etc., pretty much have been us massively dominating, but it's not putting it in the back of the net, which is what has built the frustration. You're seeing people leaving the stadium, leaving the Emirates. And I think the club are aware of that. Not that I would ever wish an ACL, of course, but I think there may be a positive out of coming out of Gabriel Jesus' injury, which I obviously wish him all the best for, is I think the club have to move now. And I think we basically needed to before Saka's injury. I think we needed to before Ranieri's injury. And I think we needed to before Jesus' injury. So I'm almost certain we will do something. I think in general, people, look, if you take a step back, before the Newcastle game on Tuesday, I think it was last week, we were 13 unbeaten. We were second in the league. Liverpool dropped points last night. I agree with you. We are out of the Carabao Cup, but we're still in it technically. And look, I think it's all very well looking in isolation and saying however many millions spent. But actually, if you look at the timeline since Arteta's come in, I think United have spent more than us. Chelsea have spent more than us. I think this is just in transfer fees spent out. I think you guys have marginally spent more than us. City have spent just a fraction less than us. And when you consider their entire squad was basically built with the Walkers and Bernardo Silvas and De Bruyne's and Edisons who've been there way before Arteta was there. And then Liverpool, obviously the lowest spenders. That is the big hurt, I think, this season, is that Liverpool have, with supposedly less of a spend, with Slot coming first season, and people are looking at that and going, but that's the kind of the North Star at the minute. Well, look at Liverpool. I think if we look at us in isolation, there's things we need to do, there's things we need to change. But overall, if we fix it in the market and if we have a good end to back into the season, I think there's something in this season too.
Yeah, I think when people look at Liverpool, it's that North Star quote is basically the perfect way of describing it, isn't it? Like, don't get me wrong, they've got a lot of match winners. They've got Salah, they've got the experience of Van Dijk and Trent and Alisson, and they've won major honours. They've won Champions Leagues and Premier Leagues together, but no one really thought that Arne Slot would come in and they would be, this far in front. But I also think, as great as Liverpool have been, no one expected this City drop-off. I actually predicted Arsenal to win the league. I thought this would be the year you'd kick on. And if you bring in, Gyökeres or Williams tomorrow, you may still do that. But there's a lot of, especially on I don't know the match going fans, because I would never, ever step foot in your stadium and watch a home game unless it's against Spurs. But in terms of the online presence right now, it almost kind of seems like it's a reaction game by game feeling. So if you bounce back and win the North London derby tonight, which we'll get onto our prediction shortly, do you just completely forget about the FA Cup defeat, or is this just kind of, in your opinion, the perfect way to bounce back? Because in look at this hypothetically, there was no other fixture that you would want to bounce back, beating your arch rivals after dropping out the FA Cup.
Yeah. I mean, it's the ups and downs of football. In this week potentially, with things to come, if we can pull out 2 results against you and Villa, we've got a deal agreed for Zubimendi. We've seen Liverpool drop points, and we might sign a forward. And that's an unbelievable week for Arsenal Football Club. It's a great step forward. So there's always ups and downs. I'm always someone, and people get annoyed at me for it, but that's fine. That's just the way it is. I try and take a step back, and you look at the defensive numbers, you look at the improvement of the players, you look at the injuries that are happening. There's before I look to get this manager out of my club, I have to exhaust all of the other possibilities, and there's so many others. That's not to say that Mikel doesn't need to step up in terms of tactically this season. I discussed on my channel, Different Knock, about like our high turnover situation. Basically, we've just fallen off a cliff. We're the second best in terms of volume team in the league for high turnovers, behind City, but then we're 14th in the league in terms of turning those into shots. We're very slow. We're very predictable. I feel like we never access the central areas. There's
What do you think that's down to? Like, because if you look at the first season when you challenged for the title, the intensity was 100. You were winning your individual duels. You're creating your own individual chances out wide. You had Odegaard, Saka, and Martinelli firing. And this season, I look at it and think, there's a lot of inconsistency in Martinelli and Trossard. I'd kind of flip a coin in terms of who would start again. I'd look at it on a week-by-week basis, not on their actual form. Yeah. And then Odegaard, to me, it looks like he's not completely firing after that injury. And, of course, now Saka's out. Other than the Saka injury, though, you're not really missing a huge... I know Ben White, but that's not really that important to your front three. What do you think's changed compared to like last season and the season before? Because on a points tally, you're not that far away compared to where you were last year, but it's more of the actual performances, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It absolutely is. I like 22-23 is probably the season people are referring to. Teams set up in a very different way. We're a lot more vertical, but then we fell off at the end. I think if we're really going into it, I think what happened was end of 22-23, Saliba fell over and Tomiyasu fell over in the same game. Now, people will say no excuse, but they'll say about when Van Dijk got injured for Liverpool, that's fine for them to finish third. But anyway, I think what happened then was Mikel went, I can't have that happen again, and then filled his team with a load of centre-backy fullbacks and big brute midfielders, the Marinos, the Timbers, the Declan Rices, these kind of guys, and said, I can't have that stability go again. I think we then had another summer where we felt that as well, and we've just gone a little bit too far into conservatism, into stability, you look at our defensive numbers, we're still top of the league for pretty much all the metrics, even with the issues we've had this season. But it restricts creative freedom. And that swing from 22-23, we're probably too far into everything's vertical, everything's dynamic, everything's quick, we're exciting to watch. Everyone's going, oh, Arsenal are scary, but we fell off. Then we went the other way and we're stable, we're secure, we're going to, get that rest defense of Gabriel Saliba and Rice and just lock in, but then we're not scoring enough goals. Now I just think we need to pull something back into the middle, about where we were at the end of 23-24, which is when we had a whole squad available, everyone was fit, and we were on a 100-point pace. I think we won like 16 and drew 1 in the last 17 games, or maybe lost 1 in the last 17, 18 games. So we were on an unbelievable streak, and that's where I think we need to get to. I mean, to kind of answer your earlier question, in terms of this evening's game, online fans will kick off. But to me, I prefer to look at, if we lose, but I think, I prefer to look at a little bit wider, and that's what I think needs to change at Arsenal. And if that doesn't happen, different conversation.
In terms of your transfers, obviously Zubimendi is going to be a great signing for you guys, and you're kind of reigniting that partnership with him and Marino from Sociedad. In terms of this window right now, do you think you will? I mean, if you don't bring in a forward right now, I think that would be criminal looking at you've only got 4 forwards fit now, really, haven't you? Sterling, Martinelli, Trossard, and Havertz. Yeah. If one of them picks up a knock tonight, I mean, I don't want to say panic buy, but surely right now they've got to be sitting in the recruitment room looking at all these different graphs and diagrams about who is the perfect signing. But if you don't, hypothetically, let's say you don't sign someone, is it crazy to say that you won't finish in the top two? Because I think the teams are like Forest right now are just absolutely insane. I don't think anyone saw that coming, but there's just no attacking bite, is there?
I think with Saka returning, I think we'd be okay. I think you're right to say we wouldn't challenge. I think I think realistically, I think it would be pretty. If we don't sign a forward, I'm fairly confident Liverpool win it by upwards of 5, 6, 7, 8 points. So I wouldn't be surprised. It would be. I mean, but also, you mentioned the word there, panic buy. And Arsenal fan, there is a sort of, we've been in project mode for 5 years, basically. We've been in this thing of every player has to come in on the right wages and be the right age and be the right, the exact right fit for the culture, and nothing has to go wrong. So then when you start referencing players like, I wouldn't sign him, but someone like a Marcus Rashford, who actually think would fix certain amounts of our issues, wouldn't be my pick. But people go, no, he's absolutely wrong for Arsenal Football Club. Well, hang on a minute. He's a player who can give us a bit of maverick energy, someone who's quicker, someone who's going to pull out moments, someone who's going to give us a bit of dynamism in the forward areas. Again, I wouldn't do it. But this idea that he's going to come in and ruin everything because he's on high wages and we've put ourselves in that position. The idea of a panic buy, if we went and did Marcus Rashford, we would only have ourselves to blame because we put ourselves in that position by not doing the right stuff in the summer. I'm a very, I would say, pretty positive fan. I've been on the Arteta bandwagon for a long time, but I would always, this window is the first time I've gone, we made a mistake in the summer. We have to rectify it. It's not, if it's a panic buy, then it's a panic buy. It's our fault. We can't be in this project mode or everything's got to be exactly the right thing for the next 10 years when we're in a title race. We've got to do something. So, sometimes some short-term thinking, I think is okay.
Yeah, I definitely think the next 2 weeks in the window definitely give you one to watch. In terms of Spurs, now I am very much, I critique when I think criticism is due, and I give praise when I think praise is due. I don't want to say negative. I don't want to say positive. I want to say a bit of a balance. Now, we are currently sitting 12th in the league, and if we lose tonight, we could be below West Ham. So just let that sink in for a second. Who have just sacked their manager. In terms of Tottenham in the league this season, we have been very much what I would describe as Robin Hood. We've beaten Manchester United. We've gone to the Etihad and beaten City. We've beaten Liverpool in the Cup. We've had good games against Arsenal and Chelsea. Then we've had horrendous results against Ipswich, Wolves, Leicester, Palace, Forest. The list goes on and on and on. However, though, I think, before I get your thoughts on Ange right now and Spurs, I think there'll be a lot of Tottenham fans right now and the team in general that will have their towels up tonight, thinking this Arsenal team has just been lost out of 2 cups. We're potentially 90 minutes away from being in the final, which is crazy to say considering we're 12th or 13th. And I think there will be a little bit of anxiety early doors in the first kind of 15, 20 minutes in the Emirates. Now, we are, I think, to the data and the metrics behind it, the highest pressing team in the league this season. That's not the sort of team you want to play up against because, let's be honest, we have nothing to lose. We are, in the pits in terms of league position. You are battling out for a title. Now, I spoke to Miguel on the terrace and he was saying that, Arsenal will be happy to sit back, get a goal, defend, and then get another goal, and then maybe win the game 3-0, but happy to have Tottenham have 65, 70% possession. I personally think the Arsenal fans in the stadium, if we turn up and I can honestly see Tottenham having more of the ball tonight. I think you could see Tottenham have upwards of 55, maybe 57%. Because I don't think in terms of that front line that Arsenal are going to play tonight, they are prepared to go gung-ho. Where do you kind of look at Spurs in general right now going into this game? What did you kind of make of our season? Because it has been very, very up and down. Take out the league, the cup form, just in the actual league right now, we are very much a bit of a yo-yo team right now.
Yeah. An Arsenal fan said that we're happy to sit back.
Yeah, Igao is very, very, very positive. He is not that there's anything wrong with that, but he won't have a bad word. Yeah. Well, no, that's not necessarily true. He won't have Arteta be attacked. But I look at it right now and think, in your front line, that I don't see a lot of confidence players right now. I see players that have a point to prove. Havertz has got to go out there tonight and score a goal. Martinelli and Trossard have got to have good performances. But the way Tottenham are so aggressive for 60 to 70 minutes, I do expect us the last 20 minutes to slow down and be a bit more pragmatic and a bit more, just happy to see what we've got. But for that first 70 minutes, I do think it could be a hard game for Arsenal. But in what he said was he's happy for Arsenal to sit back, counter and score. Basically, the way you did against us at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, where it was the original that set piece again chant that you're fancying, but that was kind of the start of it, wasn't it? Because Gabriel got that goal, and you were happy to.
Yeah, I thought he was saying that Arteta would want to sit back. I don't. Arteta will never do that. He will never concede possession. He wants control of the game. I think with Spurs, I look at your back line and I look at Archie Gray, Jagerson. Who have you got left back? Spence, and you've got this Kinski going goal.
Yeah, to be fair, I was kind of mad when we signed him because I was like, we've already got 4 goalkeepers, and we brought in a goalkeeper who got man of the match on like his debut after being on the bench 79 times. But now I look at it in hindsight, I think he may be a good signing. But yeah, our back four will be Porro, Gray, Dragusin, Spence, and obviously Kinski in goal.
Yeah. I think until you get Romero and Van der Ven and Udogie and Vicario and stuff back, I think it's unfortunately any manager in the league. If Slot lost, and the thing is people go, you can't blame injuries. Well, okay, put it this way. Let's say you're someone who says you can't blame injuries ever. If you lost your entire team, 11 players, would you say you can blame injuries? Probably yes.
Yeah.
If you lost one player, can you say you blame injuries? No. Okay, so it's a spectrum. You just admitted it's a spectrum. If you lose your entire back four, I think it's fair to say it's very difficult to judge. It's annoying because you have to bring it up or you have to think about the injuries and people don't want the excuses or whatever. But the injury, whether you say it one time or 1,000 times, it's still true. So that's my feeling on Angela, and I do feel sorry for him at the minute. However, I have 2 concerns about him. One, the way he handles himself in the media. I've never liked the way he deals with journalists and the way he speaks.
Where he just stands down and then occasionally looks up.
It's more, mate, that I get. Look, I've said this before about sort of he's done this to reporters, where a reporter will ask a question that they have to ask. They're being told by their boss they have to ask a provocative question, and he goes in on them. I just think, mate, you're not smart by going in on this person and getting a nice clip on TikTok. This person has to do that. Like, you know the game. You're, 50, 60? Like, you have to understand what's going on here. Just say no comment and move on. And he's snapped at reporters. So I find all that stuff. And I'm not saying, and then when I hear rumors about him falling out with players, I think, I can imagine that. And a good manager is good with people. And I don't see that with Ange necessarily. It's a different style, but I just don't think it can work in the UK personally in terms of the way he handles things with journalists and so on. And the other thing is, I think you look at the trends of the league, what teams have done well. Generally, in the last sort of 10 years, it's a controlled manner in terms of Man City, in terms of what they've done. They've controlled games. I think you can win with this high pressing thing, but then you need defenders who are unbelievable big space players who are going to be fit for 60 games a season. If you had Van Dijk and you had, Konaté, you had Saliba or whatever it might be, I would back you if they were fit to go on and do something in the league. But if your defenders fall over, I don't see it with this. We're not going to change, mate. It's who we are. I don't see that working for me. And I think if you look at the trends of the leagues, I don't see that working. I think probably the ceiling for Spurs with Ange, with everyone fit, with everything happening, is probably top fours, but maybe even challenging. But going in and winning stuff like consistently, for me, unless you had that type of talent, I don't see it happening under Ange. I
think we're looking at it. Taking my Spurs hat off and just talking as a football fan, the argument that I, have to hold my, not anger in, but frustration in is when I look at since the January 1st, 2024, I think Nottingham Forest in terms of points aren't that far behind us now, considering they were in a relegation fight last year. And the fact that Bournemouth have got more points in over a calendar year than us. And I don't think, even with some of the injuries we've had, Bournemouth, for me, do not have man for man a better squad than Tottenham.
Agree, yeah.
But what they have got is a coach that in Iriola, and as well as Thomas Frank has done it at Brentford and Silver at Fulham, is they've got a coach who adapts the system depending on the opponent they play. They're not going to go gung-ho against Arsenal or Liverpool, are they? But if they play Leicester, it's going to be all out attack. With us, it's just who we are, mate. We just turn up with one fit defender. Like Archie Gray's a midfielder playing at centre-back, and Dragusin can't play out from the back. He is a Serie A in a back three, the left-hand side, next to a Bastoni and a prime Chiellini sort of defender that's happy to just put his face in front of the ball. Like a Phil, I'm not saying he's Phil Jones, but that sort of mold of defender. He's not cute on the eye. He's not going to do an 80-yard diagonal pass like Van Dijk or, Romero has. But I would look at that and think, use the resources you've got, go to a more pragmatic approach, use Son, Werner and Johnson's pace and Solanke's hold-up, and go to a counter-attacking team. Because that's what I'm not saying we've got to go like Conte or Jose and just stink the place out. But at the same time, there has to be a balance. Yeah. Now, you suggested doing this. I do want to kind of move on to the actual game. Now, I've seen Martin Keown do this, and I saw, who was it, Merson? Someone else on TNT. And Ali
McCoy did one. That was
I strongly disagree with some of the decisions. Now, there probably is going to be a lot more Arsenal players than Spurs in the combined 11, and I will bring up the team we create afterwards. But in terms of a goalkeeper, Kinski's played one Premier League game, and Vicario is out injured. So I'm guessing you're clearly going to say David Raya.
It's David Raya, even if everyone's fit. So it's David Raya. You guys wanted Raya. Come on, he's one of the best.
Okay, I'll give you David Raya.
I massively rate some Spurs players, but it is David Raya.
I think Kinski, though. I mean, on the very small sample size we've seen. No, I'm not. In the small sample size we've seen, I think he can be Tottenham's number. I think even when Vicario comes back, I mean, Vicario can't play it out from the back the way. Did you watch the Tottenham Liverpool first leg?
Yeah,
he was, spraying it around like prime Banksy. I'm not going to go over say he's going to be Manuel Neuer, but I definitely think he can be number one. Right back now. Pedro Porro has literally played every minute of every game, I think, for like 18 months to Spurs when he's fit and available. Now, Ben White's currently out injured. I like Timber a lot. I think he is very versatile. He's very strong. He's reliable. He's good going forward. I'd argue he's better defensively than Porro, but I think Porro is better going forward.
Yeah. I'd agree with that. I think it's basically depends what you want. I think if you're looking for an attacking fullback who can pull on the inside and stuff and pick up those positions, I think Porro's there. I think if you want someone who's a bit more secure defensively, you probably want Timber. For me, because I'd rather give you your other fullback, I'd rather give you a doggy. I would push for.
Well, he's injured, so he's not available.
We're not. Okay, we're doing only fit players. In which case, I'll give you Porro then. I'll give you Porro.
I think the centre backs kind of pick them. We'll get to that in a second. But yeah, I think Porro in this team, like in a combined 11, the fact that I think only Trent has got more goal contributions and goal involved in like goals in general since he's been in the Premier League is a remarkable, stat. I'm just afraid that we are going to lose him if we don't buck our ideas up. Right, in terms of centre backs, let's just get this over and done with. It is Gabriel and Saliba. Archie, even with Romero and Van de Ven fit, I would still take Gabriel and Saliba. I love Van de Ven. I think he is the most unique centre back in Europe because no one has that level of recovery pace. But Gabriel's like a bit of a pit bull, and Saliba, for me, has the ability and potential to be the best centre back in the world. I know some people might say it now, but I'd still personally take Van Dijk. I'm assuming you're, comfortably going to take both your centre backs.
I would definitely go Saliba and Gabriel. I'd still pick Van Dijk in terms of overall, but I think Saliba is the best centre back I've seen in the Premier League, probably in the Emirates era for Arsenal. He is, honestly, if you watch him everywhere, it's like the game's too easy for him sometimes. And actually, that's a concern because sometimes he makes mistakes because of that. He's so good, mate.
Yeah, he's like pressure. He's pressure resistant. He can turn like a DM, and he's strong. The only thing I've got the only criticism I would have right now is the concentration level at times. Like Joshua Zirkzee. Don't get me wrong, he's got a lot of ability, but it looked a little bit easy the way he got past Saliba in that attack.
There's moments, and I think, for example, like Ollie Watkins away a couple of seasons ago, pulled him wide and did him, and it happens. I think that's the sort of thing that you want to get through in the Van Dijk way. You get through 18 months without anyone dribbling past you. That would be ideal, but that's a crazy level to reach. I think just we remember those, but we don't remember the thousands of. He basically underpins our entire pressing structure, because when we go up, when they pump the ball long, we are going to win it. Because it's Saliba. It's
like no one really remembers when Perisic put Van Dijk on his backside at Anfield and made him look like he was on skates. In terms of your left back, you've got Miles Lewis-Skelly. I haven't seen enough of Calafiori, like a consistent run of games of him yet to really judge him. And we've got Jed Spence, who is very similar in terms of he hasn't had a consistent amount of games. However, though, he has been very good. Who would you say at the moment is Arsenal's best left back?
Well, it's not Zinchenko.
He's on his way to Germany.
Yeah, he's going. I think if we're not having Timber at right back, I'd have him at left back. He really is completely. He can go both sides. I think Timber can go left back. Miles, within a couple of, I know everyone says this about young players, but I'd even say because of the pathway he could have at the club, he is so brave. He's like in his box, dribbling out against two, prime attackers. He's such a brave kid. I actually met his mum on a stream on an interview once. She's lovely, but she has that real steel, and you're like, okay, I can see where this comes from. He's a very, very down to earth guy, very humble, very good at what he does, and I think in a couple of years we'll be looking at Miles and going, okay, I think
he's down to a new contract.
Yeah, I think we're talking to him about it. Very good player. But I think I'd put Timber left back.
Now, in terms of the midfield, this is where it gets slightly interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I want to go kind of a 6, an 8, and a 10. We are playing a 4-3-3. In terms of like who would you have as, because there's always an argument about Declan Rice and Partey, who's the 6, who's the 8. We've seen Partey at right back. Who would you say at the moment is like your pick for Arsenal's DM?
It depends on the game.
Because you've also got Marino as well.
Yeah, it does depend on the game. Depends on what we're trying to do. If we're trying to stop transitions and stuff, I'd put Rice there. If we're trying to control the game a bit more, I'd probably put Jorginho there. I think in terms of the midfield 3, what I would go, if we're going for on form and the most balanced midfield, I really like Pape Sarr. I think Sarr is a proper player.
You're going to put Sarr in there?
No, I'm not going to put him in. But by the way, I think he's a brilliant
just like an honourable mention.
I really, really like him. Rice has got to be in there somewhere. I think Kulusevski's got to be in there somewhere.
I think Kulusevski starts in this 3.
Yeah,
now,
I agree.
What I'm going to say, you're going to be like, you're fucking outrageous.
Are you going to say Maddison over Odegaard? Because I would say at the moment, I
would say Kulusevski over Odegaard.
Mate, honestly, at the moment, I think I'd agree with you. I think long term, it depends what you're doing, but Odegaard's in poor form, and he's losing a bit of influence on this team. Honestly, with Zubimendi coming, in terms of the middle third, I don't know. There's a conversation anyway. Rice has got to be in there. Kulusevski's got to be in there, and then that third midfielder, I think maybe Odegaard is in there, but it's close.
So I personally would go Rice. Could you go Rice, Kulusevski, and Odegaard, and Odegaard in the 10?
I think so. I'd put Kulusevski 10 and Odegaard 8 because, to be honest, Odegaard acts more like an 8 for us anyway. He drops.
I do like Sarr. Bissouma for me is so hot and cold. 1 minute he's really good. Bentancur, he's another one, but he's out injured.
Yeah. So for me, on form in terms of who's available, I think that's probably the best midfield 3.
So we're going to go Rice, Kulusevski, Odegaard, or Odegaard, Kulusevski.
Yeah, I think so.
We'll start with the number 9. For me, this is easy right now. One is getting absolute. I have not. I mean, we can say scapegoat all we want, but I have not seen an Arsenal player attack like this since maybe Mesut Ozil.
It's a similar style to that languid style.
I mean, it's just. I mean, the knives are out for him right now. Who would you take out of Odegaard or Solanke, or would you play Trossard in a false 9? Or
I would put Solanke up top. I actually I had in my sort of stock rising for the season, I had Solanke in there. I think Solanke, if he was properly supported behind him by Romero and Van der Ven and stuff, I think he'd be cooking. I think he's the perfect striker for Spurs. I really do. In terms of like crosses into the box, just getting in front of his man, flicks in, all that sort of stuff. I really rate Solanke. I think he's a top player. So I play Solanke over Havertz. Weirdly, I wouldn't have Solanke for Arsenal over Havertz, and I can explain why. But I think he's not the right player for our system. But I think overall, who's better at what they do? I think Solanke at the moment. Honestly, would that be an entirely Spurs front three? There's not an Arsenal player I'd put in that front three, I don't think. Not right now.
So I mean, Werner, absolutely no chance.
No.
I would go. I mean, Trossard stinks right now. So does Martin. Martin needs to be inconsistent. Yeah. I would go Son on the left. Johnson and Trossard flip a coin.
Yeah.
1 minute Johnson looks great. The next minute he looks like arse. 1 minute Trossard can bag a goal, a hat-trick at Anfield for Brighton. And then a year down the line, he can't score at Arsenal. So, like, I probably would back Johnson. But if you said Trossard, I wouldn't be, upset about it. And then what about Maddison? Could you play Maddison out wide?
Yeah. I like Maddison, man. I think he's a bit limited, but I do think he's a great player. Honestly, I'm maybe I'm just lost in the Spurs sauce, but I would go Solanke, Johnson, Son.
Wow.
Yeah. In terms of obviously, if we were fully fit and firing, I'd be telling you Kai Havertz. And if we were sat here end of last season, I'd be saying Kai Havertz and Bukayo Saka, undoubted. Don't even chat to me. And then probably I'd give you Son. But yeah, probably right now with Saka out and the form of our players, I'd probably go all Spurs front three.
So the actual 11. I forget the positions. I've just kind of moved things out. It'd probably be more like.
I don't mind that.
Where do you think this team right now would finish?
Under Ange.
Oh, that's the manager. I mean, right now the manager's 1 second, 1's 13th. So you probably would choose Arteta as the manager.
I'd choose Arteta. Under Arteta, I think actually, I actually think he'd like Johnson and Solanke. I don't think he'd like Son. I don't think he'd like Pedro Porro. I think he'd be too.
So let's say you had a fully fit, firing Saka on the left-hand side or right-hand side. Let's say you switched one of those over, and let's say that was your team.
That team with Saka, I think, wins the league because I think we need someone who's a bit more either needle. Kulusevski. Also, Kulusevski works so hard, man. He works so hard.
His work rate's a joke.
Yeah, so I think Arteta would like him. Pedro Porro, I think in terms of the positions our fullback picks up, he could do it a bit more dynamically. I do worry about him defensively, but if Saka was there, he can do a lot more. And he also got Saliba on that side. Mate, I think that team, and then Son's definitely a better outlet than Martinelli, although, again, I think Martinelli works unbelievably hard out of possession. I think
if you had Saka there, though.
If we had maybe Johnson on the left and Saka on the right, I think we could deal with that.
So many Arsenal players: Raya, Saliba, Gabriel, Timber, Rice, Odegaard. So we've got 5 Spurs players. The team right now that are 13th, potentially tonight.
Maybe I'm being harsh. But yeah, I can't think of an Arsenal player put in the front three right now of yours. So,
and in terms of score prediction, the last things we obviously in the essence of the time. What is your score prediction for tonight? Arsenal versus Tottenham at the Emirates, midweek, by the way.
Midweek.
I mean, who decided a midweek North London derby? But what's your score prediction?
I'm going to go. I have to back my boys, especially after that Command 11. I'm going to go 2-0 and 2-1. 2-1 and goal scorers Gabriel, Solanke, and Odegaard.
No Havertz.
No.
Wow. I mean, if you offer me a draw right now, I'd bite your arm off for it because I think we've got such a bad record there. And we did draw at the Emirates there last season, actually 2-2. I want, as much as I want us to come out and say, I'm going to back the boys 3 points, which could happen. I am very much on the fence because I know how weak we can be at times at set pieces and how strong you are at set pieces. I think the crowd plays the biggest part on this game. If the anxiety from the crowd seeps in onto your players, first 10, 15 minutes because someone's played it out of put it into the stands or whatever. I think that could change things, but I'm going to go back a 2-2 draw again. Which obviously, looking at Liverpool's point last night, would probably be a good point. Where do you think just last question, where do you think the fans would be tonight if we did win?
Look, there's always going to be very vocal fans who are angry, and it'd be a North London derby. To be honest, it's more about the manner of the defeat. If we lost in a whimpering way, actually not even a whimpering way, if we lost in the exact same way, which is basically we have all of the game and we're just passing around your final third, and you go and can score 2 counter-attacking goals, that will kill people more than anything else. If we see like a 4-3 where it's free flowing, whatever, we make mistakes, that's uncharacteristic, and we'd be going, well, at least we're scoring something. It's honestly, if it's the same game that Arsenal fans are watching, that's when they'll kick off. Ultimately, if you're Arteta out tonight, a win tonight isn't going to convince you. If you're on the fence, maybe it'll sway you a touch, but it's going to be a longer term thing. And if you're Arteta in tonight, won't convince you either. So I don't know. I think it's a longer term thing for me.
Yeah, and especially you can close that gap tonight on Liverpool. The fans that are screaming for Arteta out, you could be within 4 points of the top. So it's both ways. But look, thank you very much for coming on.
Pleasure.
Just let people know where they can find you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I am on, you can search The Different Knock, or you can find me on the Canon podcast as well.
Right, we are going to wrap up, and we will see you all soon. Thank you all for watching. We're out of there.